Hello. That's on, isn't it? Andre van Barneveld, Grace Consultancy. Thanks, AHDB, for having me back again, especially after last week. I am on 2 strikes and a written warning. I get a bit animated and a bit carried away sometimes, so I do swear. I apologise in advance. Hopefully it's not a second written warning today. I'm going to talk about, give a bit of background about myself, but I'm going to talk about sustainability, right? I didn't drive here in an electric car, not really into that. I do believe agriculture has got a huge part to play in sustainability, but sustainability isn't just about environment. You know, it's a 3-legged stool. For me, economic sustainability is such a critical element. Like, if we're not making money, it's hard to really look after the environmental side. It needs to be socially sustainable as well. There's no point doing this, being in this business and becoming suicidal doing it. So, sustainability covers 3 ways. This is a picture of my farm back in New Zealand. So I started off farming. I was alerted to the fact that it was about 40 years ago that I milked my first cow in New Zealand. Born in Holland, moved to New Zealand when I was 12, and my dad went into farming over there and sort of pushed into it more than anything else, I suppose, but I got quite interested in it later on. Went through the share milking thing and bought my own farm when I was 28 and bought another one when I was 32. And then got into the consultancy side of it over there. It's interesting, back in the share milking days, so I was 50-50 share milking 92 to 98, milking about 300 cows on 100 hectares. And in those 6 years, I think I used 2 tonnes of urea. Back in those days, it just wasn't what we did, So we had so much clover in our swards back then, and I didn't have the technical understanding of what that clover did, what the benefits were. I just knew that the cows milked on it pretty well, especially through the second half of the season. Didn't really know that it did anything for us for nitrogen. But when we started then changing the New Zealand industry and nitrogen sort of became a bit of a player, clover rates fell back fairly dramatically, so everything changed. Pretty much nitrogen and PK became the 2 big things in New Zealand, and the industry changed. We sort of lost our way a bit. Things have gone a bit cyclic, and we're coming back down towards that whole clover thing again, and starting to realise now the technical background of it, starting to realise that there's a lot more involved with clover. For me, the clover has so much more as far as what it does for the soil, and these days my consultancy revolves so much more around a soil-based approach. And then later on you get through to the nitrogen mobilisation from the atmosphere as well. So came to Ireland in 2013, been working with UK farmers since about 2015, I think, and went back to New Zealand in 2020 during COVID, and thought it'd be a good idea to buy a farm. We bought a depleted dry land farm, which seems like a good idea on a day like today, but that was fairly stressful too, because we get no rain for 2 or 3 months at a time sometimes, I remember transevaporation rates are huge. We were down in Canterbury, just heading out to the peninsula. Transevaporation rates were about 3 to 4 times as high as what I get over here, I think. And so we could go in 3 weeks from having that to like the carpet, it would be nothing. And the stress on the whole system and just mentally, that pressure was huge. But it's nothing compared to what you're dealing with right now. I realise for grazing farmers, this is tougher. When it's dry, chuck the cows in a paddock, throw them a bit of feed. As long as they got water, they're all right. But this is tough on man and beast, so I acknowledge that things are not easy at the moment. We got the whole farm within 2 years. We had 80% of the farm in mixed species, and we were driven. I really drove the system around clover. So for me, clover was the key to being able to turn this dry land farm into something that was going to be very, very low nitrogen use. So that my business revolves around nitrogen use efficiency, and we wanted to get down, so in year 2 we got down to 23 kilos of nitrogen per hectare for the year. And we were always measuring things, and at no time did we feel that growth was restricted through lack of nitrogen, so we got down to some fairly nice low levels, and okay, where we were was a tough area. Like we generally about 2 to 3 months we have growth rates at around 10 through the dry periods. So that brought our annual tonnage back. So we only grew sort of less than 10 tonnes of dry matter per hectare, but still, that's the kind of environment we're working with. Learnt a lot, and it was a brilliant experience. Worked with some really, really good people. Went to foliar application of nitrogen as well. So your question around foliar, did a lot of work with that. Got to know Alistair Moorhead and Juddy that developed a lot of the varieties that you're dealing with now with Agricom, the chicory and plantain and those sort of things. And it was brilliant, good learning experience. My talk's supposed to be on establishing clover. I diverge sometimes, excuse me, so I'll get a little bit into soils and things like that. So in a nutshell, for me, establishing clover revolves around this statement, all right? Successful establishment revolves around creating a suitable environment for the target species and minimising competition. And I talked with a couple of people just at the start of this day here, and they were saying that they were having trouble trying to incorporate clover into existing swords. It's something that I've never really had a problem with clients, but it revolves back around this, and we'll cover that later on. But, like in a way, you kind of want to suppress the competition if you need to, but, you have to create a suitable environment. So with this statement, you just about go mic drop and leave, because this is establishing what establishment is all about. So I'll cover a few of these things, just dealing with weeds, nutrients, temperature and moisture, seed to soil contact, and then look at the difference between the full reseed or going into an existing. So dealing with weeds, I'm not going to cover a lot here. There's nothing really too much new. We know that we're restricted for what we can do post-establishment with clover. What you can do with herbicides post-establishment is limited, so you've got to make sure that if you're dealing with a fairly weed-infested sort of a soil, then there's a lot of seed in the soil, then you've got to make sure you deal with that as much as you can prior to sowing your clover. Quite often, if there's difficult situations and working with the clients, we might actually just put grasses in initially and add clover later. Clover allows you to do that. It's fairly easy to incorporate later on, but then it is sensitive to residuals as well if you're using very harsh chemicals to deal with weeds post-emergence. Glyphosate, huge. With all my clients, I'll be switching to glyphosate with fulvic acid, just trying to reduce the rate of glyphosate and trying to stabilise it more and to minimise the impact on the soil microbiology. Post-emergence, like I said, your clover safe spray can only, and mow and spot spray. My first couple of years working in the dairy industry in New Zealand revolved around carrying a backpack and spot spraying. So it's not something you see quite as much anymore these days, but ragwort was a big problem in where I was in New Zealand, and pretty much it was milk in the morning, spray weeds all day, and milk in the afternoon. So that was my 13-hour day, $97 a week for 6 days a week. So that's pretty much the weed, and ask questions if I missed something out. This is more the area that I wanted to look at a bit more, looking at your environment that you're trying to create. So clover likes a higher pH. It likes to be in the 6.2 to 6.5, and of course I'm talking white and red clovers really. They like to be in an optimal pH range. It's optimal for your nutrient efficiency and your nutrient transition in your soil revolves around that correct pH as well. The calcium-magnesium ratio is something that for quite a few years I always dismissed it a bit as being sort of the greenies and the organic guys sort of got stuck into this. But it's funny, soil is one of those things. The more you learn, the more you realise you don't know. And as I've gone on and looked at things, I've become so aware of how important oxygen is. Gas exchange in the soil is everything. If you want to develop root structures and you want to get mineral transition, then having oxygen in the soil is absolutely critical. And to get oxygen moving around the soil, you need to have a good calcium-magnesium ratio. You know, magnesium sort of holds soil particles together, calcium holds soil particles apart, you know, so it's to be able to get that movement of air through the soil, you need to have a good calcium-magnesium ratio. It's really, really critical for so many things. Like even, you know, you're talking about nitrogen use efficiency. You can do all the things in the world, but if you're sitting at a 1-to-1 magnesium, calcium-magnesium ratio, then you won't have high nitrogen use efficiency, you know? So even if you're using chemical fertilisers, like your efficiency of that nitrogen fertiliser is going to be so far reduced by having the wrong calcium-magnesium ratio, you know? So ideally you want to be sort of around that 6-to-1 ratio, so 1-to-1 is really bad. In a 1-to-1 soil, you tend to be that really clogged up small soil particle, and you tend to see moss on the soil surface, and it's just struggling to breathe. So that's a really critical thing. Your P and K levels, you know, we know that clover is fairly K hungry as well. And the beauty about clover, yes, it is P hungry, but it does send out acid exudates that do break your phosphate, your triple negatively charged phosphate away from your double positively charged calcium in the soil. So, you know, like when you apply chemical phosphate, most of it gets locked up, 70% of it is locked up within 6 weeks of applying it. So clover has the ability to unlock some of that locked up P in the soil again. So as clover is developed, it's able to do that. And I think this is one of the great benefits of clover really, is that it's able to release something that's locked up in your soils. Paul alluded to it before as well, you know, like there's always a trade-off. And I see quite a bit of misconception around nitrogen application and clover, and people trying to cut their nitrogen back on high clover swords. It's a really difficult thing to create, and for those of you that read the article that I wrote last night, yes, I went to an event on Friday and they recommended going around with ridiculous rates of nitrogen now following the second rotation with cows. And it was a clover event, and they're recommending like such extreme nitrogen applications, and I'm going, well, the clover that survives that isn't going to mobilise atmospheric nitrogen later on, you know, so it's a chicken and egg thing. Like if you get sort of heavy on your nitrogen use at the start, your clover's not going to be efficient at mobilising atmospheric nitrogen later on and sharing it around. So, you know, there is trade-offs there. If you're going grass to grass, like don't apply nitrogen at time of sowing. Yeah, you can get some farmyard manure worked into the soil, but that'll provide so much nitrogen that, you know, you don't want to have that seed developing any quicker than what it naturally does. If you're going from, you know, in low organic matter soils, you're going from tillage to a grass laying you're putting clover in, then maybe it's going to require a bit of nitrogen because you just don't have that organic nitrogen in the soil. But normally speaking, I'd just absolutely go, do not use nitrogen at time of sowing. If you want that clover plant to develop a good root structure and become efficient at mobilising nitrogen later on, then that's a fairly critical point. Slurry and farmyard manure, like post-emergence, like I said, farmyard manure is great to work into the soil. It's not necessarily classed as organic, but, you know, we'll call them organic manures. They are such a different element than what chemical nitrogen supplies. And then later, once you get to the sort of 2-leaf stage on the grass in that sward, you know, going around with that slurry post-emergence is a really good way to boost growth rates of that plant once it's established. There's a lot of other things that are really important with clover as well. Like, you know, we don't really talk about sulphur very much either, but it's a critical element again in sulphur plants establishing, and especially when you get the clover plant developing the nodules, like to get the nodules below the soil surface on the root structures developed, sulphur is a critical element to get that development. So when you dig up a clover plant, and a spade is a huge element of my work these days, you know, digging up clover plants and you look and there's not a nodule on the plant. Well, a clover plant that hasn't got nodules isn't going to be able to mobilise any nitrogen, you know, so you're going, well, you know, it's no wonder we'll cut back the nitrogen because we think we've got this clover, but there's no nodules, so it's never going to do that, you know. So usually if there's a lack of nodules, it's due to a lack of sulphur would be the first go-to, you know. So sulphur is important in that, and it's important in the whole nitrogen cycle of changing nitrate nitrogen to an amino acid nitrogen that's important for nutrient density in the plant. Cobalt, boron, there's a whole bunch of things that are really important. Molybdenum, if you've got no molybdenum in the soil, then a plant isn't able to, the clover plant isn't able to mobilise atmospheric nitrogen as well. So there's a bunch of things that are required. So look, without getting too complicated, you know, if you've got a good lot of clover in your swords and you feel it cutting back your nitrogen, it's really lowering the tonnes of dry matter growing. You know, it could be that your clover is actually not mobilising atmospheric nitrogen, you know, because there's a few things that are required in that clover plant to be able to do that. So, you know, if you're, again, digging it up, there's nodules there, but they're white. Like I've seen situations where it's like a white sheet of A4 paper. You know, you cut them in half and they're still really white. Again, that plant's not mobilising atmospheric nitrogen, and usually it's due to boron. So, you know, there's a few things required, and it's making sure that things are working for you. And it's not just a simple, like, you know, NP, P and K scenario. It's very much thinking around the timings and what you do around establishment. What are we trying to achieve? And I'm sorry, it's a grass plant. I know it's a grass plant. This is on our farm in New Zealand, so I started working with, like, I'm a bit cynical. I always say that 90% of trials are started with a predetermined outcome. So I do my own trials quite a bit, and I was doing this work with a trichoderma. It's a strain of fungus that stimulates mycorrhizal fungi development. So this particular grass plant was in August. We'd sown in March, but we had zero rain until July. So luckily the seed survived and it germinated in July. And so in August, dug up a few plants. That was sown with trichoderma. And when you just look at that root structure on that plant, all the fibrousness of that root structure, in the areas that we didn't include the trichoderma, it was actually just a really bare sort of a root like you sort of normally see on a grass plant. Where we added a trichoderma, it was just like 10 times the root exposure to soil. And that's the whole thing. What are we trying to achieve? If we want resilience in our system, if we want sustainability, if we want to be economically sustainable, and we want to get away from the reliance on chemical fertilisers and inputs and stop the salesman coming in the gate, then we just need to, like, root structure is absolutely key to what you do in pasture. When you just keep on throwing excessive nutrients on the top, and you've got plenty of moisture, look at that, there's no reason for a plant to start looking deeper for anything else, you know. So the big thing is chicken and egg again, like, you know, do you back off on the nutrient? You'd like to back off on the water a bit, but you know, that plant needs encouragement, and sometimes having different things in the system will help it drive down a root structure. But making sure in a clover plant that you don't include it in a time of sowing, and that you go easy on that N application through its development phase will allow you to grow better root structure. So, I mean, in a clover plant's case, you should see a root structure with good, healthy nodules on it, pink, mobilising nitrogen. That's what you want, you know. I like to use my own photos, and I actually didn't have a photo of a clover plant that I dug up, so I used this one. But that's the whole thing. Root structure and the health of it is critical to everything. So temperature and moisture at time of sowing, you know, ideally you want to be at 10 to 15 degrees. So really it's not so much, people always say to me, you know, at what point should I sow clover, or especially introducing clover into existing swords, and that revolves solely around when the conditions are right to do so, you know. So you need a good soil temperature, and it's making sure that your moisture levels are in that right area. You know, you can't have it too dry. That's a real risk that your seed sits there, gets enough moisture to germinate, but not enough moisture to establish. Saturation, if you dig a hole at the moment, it's probably what you get. So certainly not, and thanks for coming along today, because I thought maybe people's heads are not in that space of getting clover established. You've got bigger issues. If saturated soils are your issue, you won't be thinking about sowing clover at the moment, but your window of opportunity might be fairly short, going from too wet to dry, because that's what happens. So, it's getting that clover seed going at that ideal soil moisture level. Because of this as well, and that goes hand in hand with seed to soil contact. Like, I know it's a P, and I did steal that from the internet, yes. Couldn't quite photograph that myself. But it's just having that mental picture of what you're trying to achieve with that clover seed. Like, you need that soil to seed contact for that seed to be able to interact with the soil and moisture, nutrients and everything else. So, you want that to be ideally enveloped by soil, but, with clover it's really important. As a general rule of thumb, it's like the smaller the seed, the more shallow you sow it. So the big seeds go deep down, the small seeds go very shallow, and with clover being a small seed, we're looking 5 to 10 millimetre sowing depth. Roll before, roll after, but again, the moisture level has to be right. Like, there's no point, like a roller is a bit of a dirty word in my book in most cases, other than seed establishment, because usually you're squashing soil particles. And again, I said before about how important oxygen is in nutrient transition and the plant establishment. So, there's no point going around with a roller and when it's a bit moist and you're squashing soil particles and you're just smudging that soil surface and closing out the oxygen. But when the moisture levels are right to do your sowing, it's making sure you've got a firm enough seed bed for that seed to go into, get that seed into it shallow and roll it again after. You need that air to breathe, like it's a really important factor. I'm motoring. Going a bit quick through this. And then you're looking at the questions of full reseed or into existing. Quite different decisions, of course. So going into a full reseed situation, again, it's looking at whether you're going to cultivate, how much you want to do with the soil. And I had this discussion with somebody the other day at last week's event, actually, that said, we want to get clover into the soils, but we don't want to plough. Ploughing's evil. So, there's so much conflicting information out there at the moment, and when you look at the environmental thing and what we're trying to do, like people are frowning on ploughing being such a bad thing, but look, there's organic matter is a really important element in your soil. But I look at organic matter a bit like money in the bank in a way. Like, if you had the choice of being given £1 million to have in your bank account, but you can never touch it, right? Or you get 50 grand and you do what you like. What do you pick? You pick the 50 grand, don't you? Because there's no point having £1 million in your bank account that you can never do anything with. So there's no point having 20% organic matter in your soil, but it's a dead organic matter that's not active, it's not biologically active, right? Then it's just dead stuff in your soil. So between ions and anions and positively charged, negatively charged, there's a whole lot of things going on in your soil, and it needs a balance of organic matter and clay particles for different things to hang on to. So sometimes when you have a soil that's been farmed for 50 years and it's never had a plough through it, I wouldn't like to advocate a plough, but even pulling through a giant set of giant discs can be a really, really good thing. Like getting some activity going into that soil, reducing your high organic matter levels back to maybe 10% or 8% or whatever like that, and getting some action going into that soil so that it becomes organic matter that's actually able to be used and you're able to do things with. So don't be too afraid of cultivating in certain situations. It's completely different if you're coming from a field that's been tilled for 50 years. Then you're going, man, we need to give this a break. In New Zealand, on that farm that we took over, the people before us had it like 3 generations, and basically they wintered cows on the flats. So we had 120 hectares, I think, of flats out of 211 hectares in total, and every winter they just run their cows over it. Winters in New Zealand can be like this as well. So cows, there was no sheds except for a milking parlour. That was it. That was the only thing on the farm. So basically the cows just stay in the paddock, and in the winter they just get another break of grass, they turn it into mud and move on. So that's how they used to farm. So there was a lot of compaction going on in the soils. So when we took it over, and they loved herbicides, so it was like a perfect storm, really. So we took over low organic matter, compacted, oversprayed soils on the farm, and the key was trying to get organic matter building and to get root structures developed. So anything that we put seed into got giant disc with big rippers on the front of it, and we made sure that we got oxygen going in the soil, because we knew it was a critical element to being able to get things established and get root zones going. So everything was giant disc and then sown as a permanent reseed. You have to really judge things whether that's the way to go, but of course you can't go do 40% of your farm in 1 year. We did. But there's a massive sacrifice when you're doing that. Like if you got pastures growing 12 tonne of dry matter per hectare and you take it out and you lose a couple of tonne of dry matter per hectare, you can only afford to do that for a certain proportion of your farm. So, like looking at what proportion of the farm you're going to do as a full reseed, knowing what paddocks to pick to do that with. And I always say, if you're going to pick paddocks to reseed, it might not necessarily be the lowest producing paddock on the farm. I'm dealing with quite a few situations that they have paddocks that the cows just won't graze. I've always called certain varieties or species cardboard grasses. Your cocksfoots and your timothys and your fescues, like that challenging grass varieties that if you're in a high producing grazing-based system, quite often it's like driving to the supermarket and bringing home cardboard boxes and feeding them to the cows. You can lose the quality on those things so quickly. So, if you've got those sort of situations and you're going, well, what do we do with them? They might be growing a lot of dry matter, but is it because when it's grazed, the cows are leaving a higher residual? So you've got maybe 1 or 2 centimetres higher residual, so you've got more leaf area to mobilise solar energy. Doesn't take as much energy to start the regrowing process, so you get higher growth rates quicker. Yeah, it's growing a lot of feed, but is it utilisable? And are you doing good production from it? So they might actually be the ones to target to do reseed, and there might be paddocks on the farm that are growing 10 tonne of dry matter that potentially could grow 15 or 16. There might be paddocks on the farm that are growing 10 tonne of dry matter and they potentially could grow 11, so be careful about what you pick to do a full reseed in. And then also look at what you choose to do in existing. So if you're trying to introduce clover into existing swords, you still have to think back to that whole environment thing and that ideal scenario for that seed. You need to see some bare soil for that seed to have some room to establish into a plant. I was involved with I did some trials in Wales in 2019 where we tried to establish clover and herbs into existing perennial ryegrass swords. So we tried to pick some paddocks that were very tetraploid dominant and open enough that we could see a bit of soil, so your diploids tend to be a bit more ground coverage, tetraploids a bit more open and a bit easier to establish into. So, and we oversowed, and when everything came up, we were masters of the universe. We had this thing down, man, because it looked fantastic. Like the first time everything came up, all the chicory and plantain, all those sexy little leaves came up. You see all the clover plants in the sward, and we were going, man, we've got this. Cows grazed it and came back, went through it, and it's like, man, where's all the herbs gone? They were gone. But the clover was still there, you know, so we ended up quite successfully establishing clover. But there's a real big difference between clover and herbs. So, you know, if you're on the SFI bandwagon and you're trying to get herbs into existing swords, the rule of thumb is that your plantain plant needs to have 6 leaves before you graze it. If you do it much earlier than that, when you look at it and you flick it around, you'll see that they sort of like just wobble around on their root. Cows come along or sheep come along and they just snap it off, it's gone, it's dead, it won't grow anymore. Whereas clover's the opposite, you know, like you can come through and ideally you want to keep that sward fairly open and you can graze that fairly immature plant and it'll just stay there, it'll hang on to that soil and it'll just regrow again. So clover is reasonably easy to establish, but the whole thing is trying to make sure that you get that seed to soil contact. So looking at quite successfully the top picture there, the quad and the fert spreader. I've done this with clients in such a range of situations where we go ahead and just broadcast clover seed on the night before cows go into a paddock. I keep talking about cows because I predominantly work with dairy farmers. We just let the cows in the next day and the cows will sort of like tread on the clover seed. So just as long as you've got enough moisture level in your soil that you've got that little bit of sponginess, got a bit more than a little bit at the moment, but like you just want that little bit of sponginess in the soil, that seed just compresses into the soil. And that's all it needs. You know, that clover doesn't actually need to be buried underneath a covering of soil. Just as long as it's got good soil to seed contact, it'll establish fairly well. So we found that going along with a quad and a spreader like that is actually reasonably successful. Reed clover is not, it just won't work like that. You know, like reed clover really needs to be drilled in. So if you're going to try and establish reed clover, it's a bit like herbs where trying to establish into an existing sward is very, very difficult. Like you can drill it into a silage sward. So if you've got fairly open grass silage swords, you can drill reed clover into it. But you know, I haven't actually successfully been able to achieve good reed clover establishment into an existing sward yet, except in cases where maybe we take a cut of silage and, you know, like that grass that's left behind has got a really good knock and it's open, and you drill your herbs and reed clover into that and give it enough time to establish and get to that 6-leaf stage of the plantain plant again then. But reed clover is very much like that, you know, like if you try and put it into an existing sward, look, it's pretty much a waste of seed. And I think, you know, we're going to see some issues there in seed supply. Don't know, Paul might tell me different from Germinal. Is there a heap of seed available? I don't know, but, you know, yeah. You know, everything's supply and demand, isn't it? So they're going to screw you. So, yeah, you know, and I'm quite concerned about that, like, quite honestly. You know, like just such a big draw now on, you know, like let's just get this seed and get these payments. But, you know, you've got to ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve? And that's the big thing, you know, what are we trying to achieve? Why are you doing it? Are you just doing it to chase a payment? And hopefully today is going to give you some information that's going to make you say, actually, you know what, there's a lot more to clover than what we thought there was. You know, it's not just about free nitrogen. It's not just about the SFI payment. Like Paul alluded to as well, like it'll give you better water infiltration. Like it pulls, the way a clover root works pulls soil structure into more like a crumb-like structure around the root system, which actually helps water infiltration. But it then also makes it more efficient at retaining moisture going into dry spells. So, you know, like there's a two-way thing. Get rid of excess water better. Oh man, I swore. Sorry. Get rid of excess water and you know, when it turns dry, you just hang on that little bit longer. It might not stop you having a feed deficit, but it's going to help you to hang on a little bit longer. And also, once you get that moisture back again, it's going to be just utilising that moisture a little bit more efficiently. You know, so for every millimetre of rain that you get in a dry spell, there's a different dry matter response in grass, clover and herbs. You know, like chicory's at the far end where it's about 9 times more growth per millimetre of rain than what you'll get at a perennial ryegrass plant, but clover's certainly sitting at 2 or 3 times the perennial ryegrass plant in its moisture efficiency when moisture does come. So, you know, it's a huge thing. Maybe it's partly that interaction with soil microbiology, you know, like it's really important to get a diversity of plants. So I work a lot with mixed species, and later on you'll hear a bit more about you know, the herbal side of things as well. But you know, having plant diversity and having different roots interacting with the soil means there's different things happening. Like I said earlier on, you know, clover sends out an acid exudate, which kind of breaks your phosphate away from, it's able to break phosphate away from your calcium. So there's different things happening below the soil surface as well, and that's massively beneficial when you're trying to just bring back your inputs. So it's always asking that question, what am I trying to achieve? Because if you don't know what you're trying to achieve, you know, like pretty much you're not going to get anything from it either. You know, if you're trying to achieve the nitrogen side of things, then it's making sure that you manage your nitrogen applications really, really well, and that you dig up your clover plants and you make sure that those nodules are there and active and pink and doing their thing to make sure that you're able to back off on that nitrogen. You know, like I've got quite a few clients that are sitting now at you know, between probably 50 and 80 kilos of nitrogen per hectare per year, farming a conventional system that haven't really pulled back on the tons of dry matter they grow. For me, it's a massive area as well, where I'm looking at your grass growth curve, and it's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is costing you more than you ever realise. This next period that we're coming up to now, in that April-May period, and especially in a spring-based calving scenario, it's such a different thing that, you know, people say, oh, we're doing a New Zealand system. Well, you're not in New Zealand, so you can't do a New Zealand system. You know, like you've got a month less at the front end and a month less at the back end. Like I started calving on the 1st of August, and we had our balance date where we met demand on the 10th of September, 40 days, like basically a month quicker than what you would have here. You know, like grass growth works differently. We stayed active through the winter, but then we didn't get that peak of growth. And I think over here, that's a huge challenge, is that you go from growing such low growth rates to having massive growth in April, May, sitting way in excess of 100 kilos of dry matter per hectare per day. That's not good. And it's really concerning at the moment. You know, we know silage stocks are down. Contractors are all rubbing their hands together because, you know, you're going to have to make a lot of silage. But you can't then go and try and drive your, like, especially milking platform on to try and grow well in excess of 100 a day by throwing a whole heap of nitrogen on. You know, like for me, that is a massive risk, in that then your growth rates are so high that you're always picking a compromise. You know, do I shorten my rotations to like 14 days because we're growing from our residual to our target pre-grazing cover in 14 days, or do I stay on 16 to 18 days but graze higher covers? And then it's a real challenge getting cows to graze that higher cover down. You know, like you're always going, what compromise do I pick? So, you know, growing massive growth rates is not really a good thing. What we're trying to do is have nutrient density. And when you add nitrogen, it has to bring in water. Like it takes hydrogen to convert that nitrogen into a plant available form, H2O, you know, and it creates a dilution effect. So basically, you're growing a plant with a dilution effect, you know, so it's like eating vegetables, but there's nothing in them, really. So, you know, when you're growing well over 100 kilos of dry matter per hectare per day, you know that your nutrient density is going to be way down. Your nitrate levels are going to be higher. So now you've got cows going up to mating time, consuming this low nutrient dense, low water soluble carbohydrate type of feed with high nitrate levels that the cow's having to use energy to deal with, to get into the urine and pee out the other end. Now, we're massively environmentally focused, and that's a massive area of concern, you know, because now you've got cows. I've seen, you know, fairly extreme situations where, you know, you've got brown patches in the sward just from the, you know, such high nitrate levels in the urine that it's killing the grass. So, you know, you can have the equivalent of applying something like 600 kilos of urea per hectare equivalent in that patch. You know, you're just melting it. So it's just really making sure that you understand what you're trying to do. In an ideal world, we have different things in the sward, we have a bit more diversity, and we knock the top off that high growth period and we take it along into periods that we might have deficits, Like for me, looking at your system, it's all about the sustainability and the resilience and lowering the risk and keeping the salesman out of the yard, and that's where clover fits in, just maybe knocking the top off that growth, but really carrying it through in the year. And then when you get through to July, August, having that absolutely fantastic feed value that's sitting probably a megajoule energy per kilo dry matter higher and higher digestibility to really keep things going through that time, So it's just thinking about your system, why are you doing it, what are you trying to achieve, and then making sure you make the right decisions at the time of establishment. Look, I looked at other considerations, coated or bare seed. Turns out, I learnt last week, you don't do coated seed, so it's not a decision you have to make. But, as Paul alluded to, they are working on rhizobia here as well, so hopefully in the future we'll get the options of having rhizobia coated seed, and they might throw a few things like the boron, the molybdenum, phosphate, those sort of things in the coating. Look, it's going to be a no-brainer when that option comes available. In New Zealand, I could only buy coated seed. I actually had to do a special order to do bare seed, but the coating was mostly, there's a bunch of pests over there that you don't have over here, just keeping pests away. But of course, in the system I was trying to run, I didn't want those sort of things going in. Look, coatings can add all sorts of things, but it does double the size of the seed. So when it comes available, it's quite cunning. They're going to be able to sell you a kilo of seed and there's only half as many seeds in it, They'll get you. But it's a serious consideration because it's going to be a massive advantage to add the right rhizobia, and it has to be, it's actually it's a tricky thing. It has to be the rhizobia to suit that strain of clover to make sure that it's much more efficient at mobilising nitrogen. Like we could just double the amount of nitrogen that same clover plant is going to be able to mobilise than what we currently are. So it's a biggie coming up. Clover variety and leaf size, again, as a rule of thumb, the smaller the leaf, the hardier it is, and the more it'll deal with, So bigger leaf tends to be a bit softer. If you're on a bit more challenging land with maybe drier periods, I tend to go for a smaller leaf size white clover than what I do a bigger. And Everlasting must have been available for a few years. I've been recommending it for about 6 years, I think, so I'm not sure. Maybe people haven't been able to get it, but that hybrid, just having something different in there as well. Again, the diversity is a really, really good thing. I've had the thing happen, so I'm going through it quickly now. Questions.
Apologies, Andre.
If you're wondering what that glow is, that's sunshine on top of clover. Again, that was our farm in New Zealand, year 2. I always use a refractometer going around and checking sugar levels, which is basically your nutrient density. And we were running about 2% higher in year 2 than year 1, which reflected in production. And that's what things look like.
We haven't seen the sun for a while, so it's nice to get a reminder of what it looks like.
Yeah.
But we're going to take questions straight away. So I know that, David, you've got your hand up. Steve, if you can come or Jess, right to the front. Someone move.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My wife manages our grazing. Her biggest complaint about our clover-rich swards is when she closes the paddocks off in November, there might be high covers. Come there in February and there's bugger all because the clover just disappears. What's the best way of managing that?
Yeah, that's the downside of clover, and that's a trick. I mean, when you look at the temperature ranges that different plants work in, I mean, perennial ryegrass becomes active at about 6 degrees, I suppose, and as a general rule of thumb, and clover about 8. Like your plantain becomes active at probably 4 or 5 degrees, so it's just looking at what different plants do. In an ideal world, we want a bit of clover throughout the sward. And as Paul said, I mean, when you think, man, there's only clover, like that there looks like 80% clover or something. I think we measured that at something like 45% clover or something, of actual clover. So, if it's throughout the sward, then it's great. The problem is when you've got patches with just prolific clover and patches of grass, and you get all these bare patches in the paddocks. So, look, there's no answer to it. There's a sweet spot for how much clover you have, and having 80% isn't a sweet spot, and I've had people last time asked a question about perhaps putting seed in with slurry when they're spreading the slurry, or just feeding it through the parlour in the meal. I don't like seeing it going into the parlour meal, because that's then what you achieve. You end up with quite a concentration of clover seed in a patch that might get established, and you get a real strong clover patch, and there's no grass, like it's sort of out-competing the grass around it. That's not ideal, but in an ideal world, if you can get 25, 30% of clover throughout your sward, then that's all right. That minimises the impact of that period, But of course, you've always got to measure and weigh up the impact on your late and early pasture availability versus the upside of having the clover in your swords.
So the question was, is it worth going on earlier in the season with some grass? With some grass seed?
No, it's not. Again, by the time the grass seed gets enough soil temperature to get established and actually do its thing, the clover's probably going to outcompete it again. Things will always alter to suit. You'll always end up veering towards what the environment suits and the grazing management suits, So you ideally want to get a grass established at a time when the clover is under a challenge. But the trouble is that at the time that the clover is under a challenge, it's not a suitable time to get anything different established, Like if you can get grass established at 2 degree soil temperatures and add it in the back end, it doesn't work like that, So it's very difficult to overcome that, is to try and get grass seed into those patches, really. I think in most cases people are just accepting the trade-off. But from a soil perspective, again, it's not ideal, because you've got a bare patch. So throughout the time that you've got a bare patch, there's no interaction, there's no solar energy being mobilised by any plant. So the soil microbes are sitting there going, there's no glucose coming to us to feed us. There's a whole bunch of things going on that are detrimental to below soil activity. Yeah, look, if you can get some grass established, great, but it's difficult to do so.
We'll take another question. Paul, just in the middle there, please, Jess.
Thanks. Good talk, that was. My question is, help me understand how nitrogen is fixed throughout the year with a high clover inclusion. So we know clover will be at its strongest in August and September. And this will perhaps tie in with how we manage nitrogen as well. So that sward there, if you're saying that's 45% clover, it could potentially fix 250 kilos of N. Is half of that going to be in 4 months? Can you just shed a bit of light on that, please?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people think they add clover into the sward and the clover just grabs its nitrogen and then just throws it around itself, like it just shares it with plants around it. But it doesn't actually, it doesn't work like that. The nitrogen that becomes available to surrounding plants actually comes from the dead matter that comes from the clover plant. So it's not like it fixes nitrogen and the leaf just throws out like nitrogen, or the roots throw out nitrogen. It doesn't quite work like that. It's like when you graze it and you've got root extremities dying off to reinitiate the growth and things like that. You break off those little root bits, and that provides you nitrogen in the soil. When you graze it, all the bits of waste, you're only going to get 85% utilisation. There's going to be little bits of leaf laying around, and that decaying matter is what provides you nitrogen for the surrounding plants. And then you're looking at, at those times when it's actually able to fix a lot of nitrogen, it's not just going to do it through that time, so it's able to, the nitrogen form that it's able to fix, if your soils are healthy, and that's a huge one, if your soils are healthy enough, it's able to hold on that quite efficiently, like onto most of that nitrogen. And so if you look through a microscope, you look at soil particles and they're intact, and they can store that nitrogen efficiently, then other plants can access that nitrogen for quite a long period of time. You're just going to be quite short in the front end of the year. But nitrogen is hardly ever, it's hardly ever an issue at the back end at all, right through. Like once a clover plant, it'll be fixing nitrogen, way before then. It'll be fixing nitrogen in May. It's just through this very early time that you might be struggling. So when we used our 23 kilos of nitrogen per hectare on our farm there, we used a whole lot by November, which is the equivalent of May over here. Except then we got a contract on our farm on the 1st of March, which is like the 1st of September over here, to sell it for the 1st of June takeover. And I had half a tonne of urea sitting left in the shed, and I thought, I'm a Dutchman, I don't, like to give anything away for free. And I thought I'll use that up and I'll do a bit of a mini trial. So we actually put the half a tonne of urea through the foliar spreader, and I did 2 strips through 4 different paddocks. And some of those paddocks had, we'd measured them at below 5% clover for the year. So so we did 2 strips. I keep saying we, but yeah, I did. And I was waiting and waiting for the response. So I put that nitrogen on in April. So it hadn't had any nitrogen, any chemical nitrogen since November. And we had no rain for a couple of months, but then we had rain. We'd had 3 grazings before I applied the nitrogen. Good grazings and like pasture like this. And not a measurable or visual difference to where I had and hadn't applied the nitrogen. So it was remarkable how efficient you can be when you cut the drug addiction and you get the soil microbiology working. How efficient pasture can be with nitrogen, except in the front end. But again, you've got to be very careful. Before now, there hasn't been a lot of opportunity. Even if you have a straight grass sort up till now, it might have been able to mobilise 0.1 and now up to 0.2, 0.3 kilos of nitrogen per hectare per day, so minute levels. And it's only, now that the grass is really starting to grow, you get an opportunity until the clover plant is active in May.
We'll take another question. I think there was a gentleman that had his hand up here earlier. Sorry. We'll come back to you in a second.
You showed us your picture of a grass with an amazing root system on it. Was it a perennial ryegrass? And did you work with any other grasses in your clover pastures when you were in New Zealand?
No, that wasn't a perennial ryegrass. I got convinced that my cardboard grasses were the answer. So that where that lay was, that was really sandy soil, and the soil surface got up to 50 degrees soil temperatures. So we looked at what varieties would cope with that, and I put cocksfoot in, and that was a cocksfoot plant that was. Yeah, look, it didn't change my mind on cardboard grasses, I suppose. And it was good to have experienced it myself. Phenomenal growth and great to see green stuff when everything else went brown. But thistles are green too. You mow them, the cows will probably eat them just as well. I don't know, I wasn't convinced on it, so when I talk about diversity and I talk about herbal A's and everything else, I always say to my clients, if you're going to put in grasses, make sure you put in grasses that if everything else disappears, the cows are still going to eat it. Because that's what happens. You can be sowing clover and 2 paddocks side by side and do exactly the same thing, and your soil tests show exactly the same thing. One ends up with no clover and the other one ends up at 50%. So there's a lot of things going on that impact clover establishment, and you don't have a whole lot of control over exactly that. Just like some paddocks you'll end up, if they've got the same amount of clover in it, they'll give you more bloat than others will. There's a whole bunch of things going on below the soil surface. But yes, we worked with different grasses. That was a cocksfoot plant. Gave me a great example for a photo, but I wouldn't use it again.
Next question from yourself, sir.
Just an update.
Microphone on. No, not yet. Steve, can you come with yours?
They said they wouldn't turn it on for the dodgy ones.
It's the yellow one. Okay. Just an update on new Clover Safe herbicide, if that's okay with you. Yeah. So, Corteva are launching this week and last week a new Clover Safe herbicide in Ireland. We're hoping for UK registration later in the summer with a view to being available next year. So that's going to be for use on both reseed situations and established grass. So I'd imagine you're going to start to see quite a bit in the press about this new one coming. So for those who have got concerns about weed controlling clover, I think we've got something coming which is going to be, make things a lot different.
Cool.
Okay, sorry.
Legal drugs.
Just introduce yourself.
So, Jonathan Bellamy from Corteva.
Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan. Next question, please. Just the lady at the back, please, Steve. Oh, sorry. Just hold on until the microphone's with you, please.
Deafen these people. Yeah, it's a question about sowing the seed. So we've got a Moore's Unitrail, and it's not kind of like the fancy ones there. It's quite an old one. And you said about rolling before and rolling after them. People say that we shouldn't compact the soil. So if the Unitrail kind of sets the seed and then this like metal wheel goes over it, is that enough rolling? Do we still need to do the rolling that you've said, or was that enough?
Yeah, good. I mean, I guess you're talking about sowing into an existing sward rather than into
No.
Full reseed.
Yeah.
Just as long as you're achieving that seed to soil contact. I'd usually like to roll beforehand anyway, because you're trying to introduce the seed into a fine, firm, moist seed bed. And moist has to be just right. No, you don't want compaction. That's what I'm saying. Like, using a roller is tricky. If the moisture levels are such that you're going to be squashing soil particles, like I wouldn't use a roller. And yes, if it's that moist, then those kind of rollers will do enough to compact it afterwards. You're going to get that seed snugly sitting against soil to interact with the soil. So that's what you're trying to achieve, yeah.
Thanks. Steve, if you can come to the aisle again. Sorry, sir, I missed you out there.
My question is about sowing rates. I mean, in a proprietary mixed sward, you buy sort of 12 to 15 kilos of grass seed, but only a kilo of clover. There's no way you're going to get 40% growth. How much clover seed would you put in on a complete reseed compared to the grass seed?
Yeah, so you're talking a kilo per acre. Yeah. So your 2.5 kilos per hectare, a kilo per acre should provide you good clover levels if everything's right as far as getting it established. But again, a kilo of clover seed is a hell of a lot of clover. If you're sowing it with tetraploids and you're getting 12 or 13 kilos of tetraploids and a kilo clover seed, that's probably somewhere around your 20 to 20% ratio of seed numbers anyway. And the way that clover works, and the way that white clover spreads out through your sward, you'll achieve 20% plus clover in your sward with a kilo per acre. If you're going for undersowing or adding it into an existing sward, I double it. If you feel you've got challenging conditions, if you feel that there's things that are not right, like your pH and things like that you're trying to compensate for, up the seed rate. But I mean, I've seen people go at 2 kilos and end up looking like that. Because that's all we did. That was 2 kilos per acre. We did 5 kilos of clover per hectare in there. So we ended up, I didn't put a photo up of a cow upside down with bloat, but I have those as well.
We are recording today, Andre, so thanks for that. I think we've got a question at the back.
Yeah, it's working. Just to throw this one out to you, just going to challenge you now. Clover in zero grazing systems. Experiences, pros, cons?
It's a no-brainer. I even work with people in zero graze. I even work with people in robots. Yeah, look, it's the same thing. Like, you're trying to get pasture quality. And for me, if we're trying to get away from meal use, and the people that I have working with zero grazing are sort of probably a little bit more confined in things, and always veering towards feeding more cake than they should, our clover is an absolute critical element through that later part of the season to get meal use down, you know. So if you can keep your ME and digestibility higher in your forage, that's key to bringing down, you know, getting the same amount of production from less meal. So yeah, look, but again, it's having that ideal situation where it's mixed throughout the sward rather than big patches. But yeah, I don't see any difference in zero grazing or grazing systems.
No sort of adverse. Oh, there we go. No sort of adverse effects on the multiple cut agronomically, taking it out, or
no? White clover likes it. Yeah. And you know what those people find is that they can actually push for higher clover percentages without the bloat risk as well. You know, so as soon as you sort of just have that slight wilt on it as well, it just seems to make that difference as well. So no, zero grazing, it's yeah, I'll probably push it harder in those systems than what I would even in a conventional grazing system.
Just out of interest, are you zero grazing yourself?
I might know someone that is.
Right, okay. Perhaps have a word with Ossian from Farming Connect, because they're running a trial. So, okay. Any other questions?
Oh man, I'll shut them up. I'm not recording it.
Well, just, sorry, Jess at the front here, just one last question and then we'll break for lunch. Just to your right.
When you were talking about establishing clover, you were saying to keep nitrogen out from the seed bed, but then we went on to talk about putting slurry and manure on. So are you not getting nitrogen from that, or are you getting more benefit from the P&K that's coming through that?
Yeah, absolutely, you're getting nitrogen from that, but that's, like I said, when you get to about that 2-leaf stage of the ryegrass plant, you know, so you've got, the thing is when you put nitrogen on at time of sowing, you have a plant. Nitrogen can only be mobilised by a plant in an interaction with photosynthesis, so it needs solar energy and everything else. So a plant that's got an excess of nitrogen, or a seed that's got an excess of nitrogen, is going to go, ooh, the only way to mobilise this nitrogen is to try and throw up a leaf, rather than going, let's get this seed, let's get this root structure developed, you know. So what we're trying to do is get a healthy root establishment, and then a natural process of developing a leaf to mobilise solar energy and get the photosynthesis process going, you know. So once you've got leaf area there, you now have an opportunity to accelerate as well. I don't like to see high rates of N going on. So even in slurry, I might be going at, in your terms, probably, you know, 1,500 gallons per acre or something max, you know, not 3,000 gallons per acre, because it just ends up with way too much N and way too much nutrient that it can't use anyway. So yeah, slurry, it's the P and K that are so important for the plant, but also once there's a leaf up, you know, it can mobilise some nitrogen. Well, and I'm talking about really trying to feed that ryegrass plant that's with the clover.